Welcome back to another edition of the Pagcast. I'm your host, Michael Pagani, joined alongside Prince George Cougars defenseman, Ephram Mcnutt. Ephram, welcome to the Pagcast. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My first question to you to open this up is, how have you been doing recently?
Yeah, it's been good. On a personal level, it's been a pretty decent year. Obviously, you look at stats and standings. Our team's been doing about as good as they possibly can be. So that's been huge. Yeah, it's been great overall.
And do you have any special holiday plans for, I guess, this holidays?
Not too much. I think just with the schedule being so tough, I think it's just important to get home and have some downtime with your families, get a little rest, and but yeah, so not too much. Not really traveling much. Played a little golf and squash with my dad at the simulators and stuff. So that's really been about it.
So, I mean, every year is kind of different with the holiday schedule and with the way the WHL lays out their schedule. Is this kind of like the longest you've gone without seeing your family?
Yeah, I think so. I think this year, especially with Wenatchee being in the U.S. division, I think our travel's been a bit more hectic. So we're down in the States a bit more, and obviously that's farther from my family in Red Deer, Alberta. So yeah, I think it's been especially tough this year to make things work and seeing your family. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about the last game before the holiday break. That resulted in a 9-2 win over the Giants. What went so well for the team during that game?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of tough to look at. A lot of the times, the last couple of games before Christmas are tough for teams. They don't play well. They're just kind of checked out, ready to go home. But it was great for us. We were ready to stay in it and just kind of grind it out that one last game before seeing our families. And I think a lot of us almost use it as a little motivation to get through it, play well, and then it makes the holidays feel a little better.
When you're playing in that type of a game, when it's basically a blowout, how do you kind of make sure you stay mentally in it? Because you mentioned that some teams kind of just are checked out, right? Like you could kind of take your foot off the gas a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It is tough for sure, especially against a bit of a weaker team this year, being Vancouver. Yeah, it's tough for sure. I think you kind of look at it like you don't want to let it slip away. The team's doing well, and I think later in the game, you just want to make sure you're doing well for yourself and your personal success. So I think it's kind of that. Once you kind of know the win secured, you kind of just do it for yourself and for your other teammates, and for your goalie, you want it to look good on him. So I think that's just the real motivation.
Let's get into a bit of your story. Who influenced you to get into hockey?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. It's kind of weird. My dad didn't really play much when he was younger, but I think he influenced me to just kind of always be active. And he was a pretty athletic guy in football and rugby. And I think just my local rink was close, and it was kind of the bigger sport in my town in Nova Scotia. So yeah, that's kind of the big one. My dad would have been my influence. Yeah.
I know that for me, like playing hockey, it was actually from my neighbor that got me into it. He just gave me a stick and I started shooting around with it. So, I mean, we all have our different influences to get into the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for me it was my dad. Again, he didn't play much hockey, but it's kind of weird. It was just kind of the time and place. It was set up good. My rink was close to me. A couple of my buddies played. My buddy's dad played some decent hockey. So I think my dad kind of got me on the path, and then my buddies and just for the love of the game kind of took over. So
Was there a player growing up who you wanted to model your game after?
I think growing up, I'm from Truro, Nova Scotia, so it was pretty close to Cole Harbour. So I think McKinnon and Crosby, obviously. But when McKinnon was playing Mooseheads, we had season tickets, so we could sneak down and watch as many games as we could in Halifax. And yeah, McKinnon and Drouin, that duo was about as best as junior hockey will ever see, really. So yeah, that was really cool being able to watch those guys.
That's just it's only for the price of like $20, right? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the like Druin and McKinnon just tore it up with Halifax. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Now you're kind of in Red Deer now, which is smack dab in like the middle of Calgary and Edmonton. So
Yeah.
and Nova Scotia doesn't have an NHL team. So which side do you kind of lean?
I think always being from Nova Scotia, just moving to Red Deer a few years ago, I think I was always kind of leaning towards Toronto. It was is always kind of a half and half. There's the Montreal people that love their Canadians, and then the Toronto lovers. Then there's a few that were from Boston, but they like their Boston team. But I think coming out here, I think I've leaned a bit towards Edmonton. And yeah, Red Deer's about smack dab in the middle, so it's really 50-50 for who people like. So I think I've leaned towards Edmonton mainly just because of McDavid and watching what he does. But yeah, that's where I've went since I moved out here. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Like you've had the opportunity to go see like McKinnon live. And I'm not sure if you've been to Oilers games, but if you have, like that's another opportunity to see another generational talent live.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially being in Red Deer, it's so great being so central that you could go pop into a Flames game or an Edmonton game. So yeah, it is awesome. It's a great opportunity to be so close to great teams. Yeah, it's definitely a privilege for sure.
With you being in Red Deer, so would you say that the junior hockey team that you went to see the most was either like Halifax or was it kind of the Rebels?
I would say Halifax. Yeah, since we haven't even been in Red Deer too long. I think Halifax growing up is what I always watched, and then obviously coming out here, it started getting close to my Bantam draft and stuff. That kind of got me to more Rebels games to kind of see what I'd be getting myself into. So yeah, I definitely have my fair share of both, but Halifax would take the majority. Yeah.
Is it kind of, I guess, cool to see that like growing up you would see, Mooseheads games, and then now you're kind of like in that same area, right? Like obviously the Q is a lot different than the dub, but you get where I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely cool. I think all of us when we were kids, we kind of looked up to that league like it was like pro hockey, like they were celebrities. So yeah, I think being in that spot, I kind of step back and take a look at the bigger picture and kind of when stuff's maybe not going my way and stuff. I think you still got to look at the positives and see that you're a role model for so many and you still got to where I always dreamed of. So I think you got to be pretty happy with that no matter what.
You played with the Red Deer hockey programs growing up. Like, how did they help you reach that next level?
Yeah, I think so. My first year I came out here was second year Bantam. So I played the Red Deer Rebels AAA team. That was great. That's obviously where I got drafted out of. Justin Jarmlitz was a great coach. He's been there for a while, so that was huge for my development. And then first year midget was kind of a screw up. We had that COVID year, so we only got in 5 games. I looked at heading to Pittsburgh that year, so because they were still playing hockey, but I decided to stay in Red Deer, hoping things would kind of turn around with COVID. But unfortunately, it never did. But that was a great year. We were super talented that year, but unfortunately, we just didn't get to play very much. But yeah, but both years were great. Had excellent coaches. Optimus Chiefs midget team is a great program as well. So yeah, they were both super beneficial.
How, I guess, beneficial is the right word. Is it to have that coach who spent like with the Red Deer hockey program that I first mentioned? Like, how beneficial is it to have a coach that's been with the program for so long, and it's not like a first year coach, right?
Yeah, I think it's just good. You're not when you're trying to learn the most. It's good to have a guy who's been there, who's not learning with you. It's kind of a veteran guy who's been around. He's seen so many guys come through and get drafted, or some guys who maybe fall short. And it's good to see that he knows what's up. Really, he can help the guys who maybe need a little assistance, or he's seen so many guys in the same spot. So I think that's the biggest thing.
What do you remember from the pandemic shutting down sports?
Well, my second year Bantam in that Red Deer year, we were heading to what would have been Alberta Provincial Championships. We won our semifinal, and then we secured our spot in finals, and then we were we were going to play Lloydminster, and then it got shut down. We couldn't play. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I think like everyone at the start of COVID, it was kind of scary, but as it went on, things started loosening up. It's just a shame that I couldn't play my first midget year.
And it's a shame you didn't even finish the season, right? Like you got to the
Yeah.
finals and it just shut down.
Yeah, I think that was what we were all so mad about. It was just so close. Like we really only needed a week and a half to finish it. So yeah, that was a shame. And I think especially we were pretty heavily favored to win it all. So yeah, that was unfortunate for sure. Yeah.
What was the strength of that team? Was it just the depth? Was it the relentlessness?
Yeah, I think Red Deer kind of with every team always has that like hardworking kind of gritty team. So yeah, our kind of lower lines were just super gritty, worked hard, and then we had a couple really good skill guys. Talon Brigley plays Red Deer Rebels, Harrison Lodwick, Justin Christensen, they play Prince Albert Raiders. Me and Chase Walker were drafted to the Cougars. He didn't end up playing, but yeah, we had a lot of talent up front, and then just some real solid guys who just start in the AJ now, and yeah,
How did the pandemic affect your development?
yeah. I think you always kind of look back and thinking like maybe how much better could I have been, or like where would I be now if it didn't happen. So yeah, obviously it affected everyone, and everyone was really in the same boat. I know a couple guys went down to the States because they were still playing, and looking back, I should have probably went down to Pittsburgh and just went knowing that they were playing. But I don't know. That's kind of tough looking back and thinking like coulda, shoulda, woulda, or maybe I would have been better. I don't like to look at that, but realistically, it would have been beneficial to go down. But playing 5 games here is never really going to help you. So
Was it difficult to find ice?
yeah, so like certain times the government had everything shut down, and then ice would open up. I remember I practiced with masks for a couple weeks on ice, which was crazy. And then after that, it was just yeah, battling to find ice. You could only have whatever 5 guys in a room, 10 guys on an ice at a time, and no one was playing. There wasn't certain rinks took their ice out, so yeah, it was a battle to find it. Luckily, I had pretty good connections that were like guys that always bought ice, so they kind of gave those guys the first priority. So I was pretty fortunate enough to get out more than a lot of others.
Well, one of the better things to come from the pandemic for yourself was getting drafted to the Dub by PG in the fifth round there. Like, what do you remember from draft day?
Yeah, I think draft day, I wasn't really sure what I was gonna go. A couple teams talked. I know I was looking at college. I was looking at NCAA pretty heavily, and I was still new to the WHL. If I had stayed in Nova Scotia for another year, I would have been in the Q draft. So not a lot of people knew me. It was great that I was on a strong Rebels team with a lot of prospects. So luckily, I did get a lot of scouting. But yeah, that day it was just obviously it was a bit of a breeze. I got to the first round and I was getting a little anxious because I wasn't really sure where I was going to go. And then PG picked me, and obviously I'm super grateful for that opportunity. So
Were you thinking of going to college just because you weren't sure what was going to happen with the whole pandemic, like here in Canada?
that's partially why. And I think earlier in my career I was always a decent guy at school. So a couple of my agents and other guys who I chatted with said maybe you should look at that road if you can get kind of an academic and an athletic type thing. So that always just appealed to me because I was always kind of a school guy. But yeah, I mean, I'm super happy that I went the route I did. I could have been in the queue again, but since I was out in the West, I got to the dub, and I'm super pleased with that decision. So
Well, you debuted for the Cougars in the 2021 playoffs, playing just one game. But even though it was only the one game, like how cool was it to be part of that team for the playoff run?
oh yeah, it was cool, especially Cougars. The last little while haven't been super strong, and making it to the playoffs that year was huge for the city and the team. And yeah, Portland's a pretty crazy spot. It's an old basketball stadium. It's crazy. The fans are rowdy. The team was good. It was definitely an eye opener walking into a big crowd and a good Portland Winterhawks team. So yeah, it was overwhelming, but it was a blast. You kind of don't really think about it when you're so excited.
What's it like playing in that type of an arena? It's an old basketball arena. It's not even made for hockey, essentially.
Yeah, it's really unique. So there's not really a lower bowl. So the first bowl starts a ways back from the actual stands because that's where the court sides would have been. So it's really weird. Like there's not really fans up in your face on the glass. So it's kind of nice. It's almost like a Winter Classic feel because the fans
Yeah.
are. So yeah, it's interesting. But they love it there. Portland has some of the best fans in the league. They're so rowdy. So they just so patriotic for the country and team. It's awesome. Yeah.
Your first WHL season, 22-23, 8 points in 55 games. How good was it to get your first WHL goal out of the way and not have it kind of linger over for the rest of your dub career?
Yeah, I think it was obviously good. You look at a couple guys, some younger guys, it takes a while, and sometimes you get the bounce and sometimes you just aren't getting the bounces. So yeah, definitely huge for me. It was good to get that off my back. I think maybe if I didn't have that shot where it would have been, where the goal would have came, maybe it was, I could have drew it up better.
What was that feeling like? I don't know if there were many friends and family in the stands for you when that happened, but like scoring that must have been such a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, it felt good, especially because it was the first goal of the year. So we had a decent crowd. Yeah, I had some family there as well, so that was huge. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't really explain it. First goal of the year, it got the guys going, it got the crowd going. It was a great way to get the first one off my chest.
Let's talk about the playoff run there for you guys. You guys played Tri-City in the first round, and that included two overtime games. What's it like to play in a playoff overtime?
Yeah, it's crazy for sure. That game in Prince George where we cross scored the winner, it was electric. We had a great crowd as well. Again, the Cougars haven't been super strong the last little bit and making playoffs a couple years in a row, and then getting to that first round kind of good matchup against Tri City. It's incredible. You're sweating on the bench if you're not even working. You're just scared and excited. There's a lot that goes through your mind.
What's being said in the locker room during that third intermission before overtime?
Yeah, I think it's a little extra silent than it even normally is. I think everyone's just so focused and kind of excited, maybe a little scared as well. Yeah, I don't think really much is said. We all know what we got to do out there, and yeah, there's really not much to say.
To end that series against the Americans, you guys won three straight, including the overtime games. Was it the momentum they got in the previous games before the overtime that kind of got the legs underneath you?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it was also that we kind of had a rude awakening in that team when they snuck a couple from us kind of quick. So I think it was kind of like, okay, like this is real now. Like this isn't guaranteed anymore. So I think we just kind of flipped a switch and knew that we couldn't take them lightly and we had to play hard and play well. And so yeah, we just dialed it in, played as a team. So that was
In,
huge.
in that second round against the Seattle Thunderbirds, they were obviously like really stacked that year. What was the mindset going into that series since you have to game plan around so many talented players?
Yeah, it's really tough. You look at their what they call their fourth line, and it's any other team. It's a first line easily. So it's really tough. You can't take any team light, or you can't take any line lightly. All of them can bury. All of them have been scoring their whole dub careers. So yeah, it's tough. The game plan's really just try and play consistent all the lineups all game because if you slip up, it doesn't matter if it's their first line or fourth line, they're going to bury on you. So I think that was why that team was so lethal. If you let it slip away at all, they would just jump right on it. So
And they had one of the best goalies in the league.
yeah, they did. Yeah, that was the other thing. I think when we did finally get around their forwards, or if we were able to generate a couple of shots, he was just a brick wall in net. So yeah, it was. Yeah, you thought you were doing well and you got a scoring chance, and then he just make an incredible save. So yeah, so tough.
Are you superstitious in the playoffs at all?
I actually wouldn't say as our team as a whole isn't super superstitious. Last year we didn't really have a lot of playoff experience. I mean, Jackson Weeb went to a Memorial Cup, so that's really all we had. A lot of guys have been Cougars their whole career and haven't seen a playoff or just saw that short 4 games in Portland. So yeah, I don't think we really knew how to handle it, honestly.
When you mentioned that, PG hasn't been good the last couple of years, we going to the Memorial Cup was really the only experience. Like, how do you like? Are you just trying to soak it all in, given that you don't really know when you're going to make the playoffs next?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of the guys who haven't been there. Me as well. Yeah, I think you got to soak it in and kind of be happy that you made it there, and then you kind of got to flip that switch and realize that it's time to win, and you're here now, and you want to stay in the playoffs and not just soak it in and just be glad you're there.
What do you like about your game right now?
I think as more opportunity comes, I think I've been skating well. I think our team is such a good puck moving team, so it's pretty easy to play with guys who are just always open. So I think my vision's improved, but I think I give that mostly to the team around me because they're just such a good team to be able to find guys and they'll find you as well. So that's been the best.
And what do you think are some kind of areas you can improve on?
I think defensively, I think I've always kind of lacked a little bit. That's actually been a little bit better recently, especially this year. But I think that's always something you can improve on as a defenseman. Yeah, so just defensively, finding your guy net front, getting a gap established. I think that those are the biggest things, especially how fast guys are in the league now. It's really hard to establish a gap, and if you don't, they'll just burn you. So
Well, let's talk about how amazing of a season PG's having. You guys are having first in the Western Conference. What's the focus going to be when the second half rolls around?
yeah, I think it'll just be the same. We just got to use that momentum and keep going. The first couple games we're going to be without a couple World Junior guys, so I think some guys are playing roles that they're not used to, and that's great for them. It's good for their confidence. So to build that up, I think we just keep playing as a team, keep playing hard. We're scoring lots. I think we got to dial in kind of the back end a little bit. I think guys, as those blowout games happen, guys tend to get a little bit selfish and think it's about the points and about point night. So I think that's kind of been our biggest hurtful thing. You look at that Victoria loss we had a few weeks ago. We didn't think Victoria was very good, and guys think it's going to be their night to score a couple or get a couple points, and then it kind of goes sideways when they bury a couple, and then we're behind. So that's what's hurt us. But
You guys own the best special teams in the Western Conference. Like, what makes it so good? Is it the coach? Is it the execution? Is it the player? Like, what makes it so good?
I think power play is mainly based off our skill. Riley Height, Cohen Zemer, Hudson Thornton. They have the skill. You look at Zach Funk; he's buried a ton of goals this year. So I think mainly our power play skill. Obviously Mark Lamb, he does a great power play as well, but it's just the skill. It's hard not to have a great power play when you have those guys running it. And our penalty kill, I think I give it all to Jim Playfair. He's been incredible. He just knows where everyone's going to be, and he sets up a great system, and then he's good to us, and we want to be good to him back. So we've all dialed it in, our penalty killers. I've been penalty killing quite a bit, and it's great. Yeah, it's fun when they're not scoring on you.
Oh, absolutely. Jim Playfair, I'm pretty sure left for the Spengler Cup. How are you guys going to manage
Yeah,
his absence?
yeah. I think he'll only be gone for a couple games from us, so we won't be without him for too long. But yeah, it's going to be tough. We luckily we have three coaches normally, so I think our assistant coach will probably slide back to the D end, and then Mark will look after the forwards. But yeah, no, it'll be fine. Jim's obviously a bit of a loss, but we're not without him too long. So yeah, you just kind of adjust. You don't really have him right in your ear, so you kind of got to look after yourself and your teammates a little bit more. But that's really all.
Terik Parascak, did I pronounce that correctly or no?
Parascak, but yeah,
Okay,
you're
my bad, my bad.
yeah,
He got named to the top prospects game. Like, how fun is it to play with such a talented player?
yeah, he is. You look at a guy like that, and it's kind of crazy because he just comes out of nowhere. He's a great guy, obviously super skilled as well. So yeah, those stories where they kind of come out of nowhere are always nice. Kind of an underdog, didn't even play major midget his first year. So yeah, it's great to see a guy like that do so well. Yeah, incredible to play with. His hands are crazy. He skates well. So yeah, he's just a blast to watch.
I just have some quick fire questions lined up. I'm going to start with what has been your favorite dub arena to travel to, and what has been your least favorite?
Yeah, the boys talk about that quite a bit. I think Spokane is pretty sweet, and Wenatchee I actually liked more than I thought, but I think Spokane is it for me.
Is that just because of the lighting that Spokane is so good?
Yeah, Spokane's just a nice rink. They get great fans too, so that's part of it. I think I always liked like Medicine Hat and Saskatoon too because I have a lot of family at those games, so those are good. But rink overall would be Spokane.
And I assume with when you go to play the Blades, like that's a bit of a homecoming for you since you have so many family there, right?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about Saskatoon. Yeah.
What is your favorite TV show or movie if you have any?
Ooh, I liked Walking Dead and Prison Break quite a bit. Prison Break's old, but I liked that one. And then movie, I don't know. I just watched American Sniper, so that's a good
Okay.
four. But yeah, I think I always like that one.
Where is your favorite vacation spot?
Oh man, we go to Golden quite a bit in the summer. I'm a big mountain biker, so that's always good for the biking. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Mexico or something. We've been to
Well,
Mexico.
I
So.
mean, like personally for me, I love Ottawa. Like I love the cold, I love the snow. Me and my family, we love traveling there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Ottawa's good. I've been to Ottawa a couple of times. I played a tournament there a few years ago. Yeah,
I just love their tourism, like the museums they have. I could spend all day there.
yeah,
A lot of people and a lot of players actually always say Mexico and Turks and Caicos, and I'm here like, yeah, I love the snow. I like the frigid temperatures.
yeah. I think that's kind of why I like a place like Golden. It's kind of a mountain town, so you do get that feel of that kind of Colorado feel like the movies. So yeah.
Have you played in any titty bear toss games?
Yeah, we played in. Well, I played one. Did we play just one last year? No, we played two last year. We played one at home, one in Tri City, and then this year we played in Spokane. Just Spokane and ours, I guess. I think. Yeah,
It
yeah,
must have been really cool to see all the bears rain down.
yeah. It is crazy. Spokane was completely sold out. So especially because I enjoy that rink. It's just incredible. It kind of sucks that they score, but at the same time, it's just kind of cool watching it all happen. So
It's one of those things. It's one of those things where you just got to soak it in, right?
yeah, it is. They were on the power play this year in Spokane, and so I was out and they scored, and it's just it's just kind of like whatever it is, what it is. It's gonna happen most times, so it's probably gonna happen at some point. So I didn't mind it happening on a penalty kill.
Does it take you long to kind of reset? Because there is that like extended period, of stoppage where they're cleaning everything up.
Yeah, especially in Spokane, it's quite a bit because there was whatever 8,000 9,000 people there. So yeah, it's especially wild for a place like that, and I think it's harder being the away team because you just go back to the room and just sit there. Whereas at home, you're kind of engaged with the fans and taking pictures and stuff. So that's a bit better. But when you just go back to the room, you're just kind of sitting there watching everyone else have fun. So yeah, yeah, it's a bit tough.
Why do you wear number three?
I wear number three. I wore it quite a bit when I was younger. Not really for a necessarily reason. I just kind of started with it and then just kind of stuck with it. It was available when I went to the Cougars, so I just kind of jumped on it, and I probably won't move from it.
Just there for the vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who has been the hardest player you've had to defend so far?
I think the easy answer is probably Connor Bedard last year, but I think guys like on that Seattle team, like Gunther and Lambert, those guys are just that. Well, they had NHL experience last year, so it's crazy. I mean, Bedard didn't have NHL experience last year, but he's still about as hard as it gets to defend. But yeah, you look at Gunther and Lambert, and I think they're just pure speed and power is just next level.
My last question for you is: do you have any advice for younger hockey players?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think I look back at what I wish I would have known, and I think I did know it, but just stressing on positivity and hard work. I think that's the easiest to say. You can get down or maybe not have the opportunity you'd like or not make the team you want, but I think always just pushing back and not giving up on it and working harder than you think anyone else could is the biggest thing.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank again Ephram Mcnutt for joining me on today's podcast. Thank you again, Ephram.
Yeah, thanks so much.